Hello everybody, the Great Dino Ranger here again, back with another review. Today we're going to be taking a look at another Mattel Jurassic World figure, and that is the Jurassic World Dino Trackers Wild Roar Nigersaurus. So this is a brand new species for the Mattel line. Again, this is another species for part of the Wave 2 line for the Wild Roar assortment. The first one I got, I believe, is the Orca-raptor, so now we have the Nigersaurus, and I'm really excited because Nigersaurus is a really interesting sauropod. It has a really odd looking face, but it's very unique and strange looking, which is why I like it. So I am pretty excited to take a look at this species. But here, based on the packaging here, it's your normal standard Dino Trackers packaging, which looks really nice as usual. All the different logos, blue and beta, all that stuff that we're all used to. And Mattel put this dinosaur in the jungle environment, which seemed pretty likely. This dinosaur did live in Africa, so who knows, it was probably a bit more tropical where it was, so I guess this is fairly accurate. And you can see the figure right there, obviously, and then shows you that it has some moving mechanisms and makes sounds. Here at the top, the Jurassic World logo. On this side, you got the Dino Trackers and the Jurassic World logo as well. Same with this side. Then here on the back, it shows you a render of the figure moving. It shows you its little mechanism. It makes sounds, obviously, the fact sap information, and the others in the assortment. The only ones I am looking for are the Regaloceratops. I don't really care for the Irritator, mainly because we're already getting a Hammond collection, and then I already got the Orca-raptor, which the review is already up, so we can go ahead and check that out if you want. But other than that, let's go ahead and take a closer look at this figure. And here we have our Nigersaurus out of the package. I am really digging this figure. I like getting sauropods in general, especially when they're not like the super huge figures like the Brachiosaurus or the insanely massive Dreadnoughtus. But I like getting other sauropod species that are not in that huge size range because it kind of adds a bit more diversity. Just saying that there's tons of sauropod species out there in the world, and there's like all these medium-sized ones, then you got the slightly larger ones like the Amargasaurus, and then you got the super massive Brachiosaurus sized ones. So really cool. I really like how Mattel gives us many new species, and the cool ones like Nigersaurus, which is a really interesting sauropod due to a specific facial feature, which unfortunately isn't shown a whole lot on this figure, but I will show what it really looks like later on. But overall, I really am digging the look of this figure. The pose, the sculpt, and the colors, really nice. We'll take a closer look at the head right here. Really nice looking head. Kind of reminds me, if this isn't a Nigersaurus, and if you're just looking at the head right here, and obviously ignore the size, this would actually make for a good Diplodocus, which actually pretty funny. Diplodocus or Nigersaurus is part of the Diplodocus family group. Those sauropods that are like in that horizontal size range, or that horizontal shape, I guess, which is kind of a coincidence, pretty funny. But because it's got like that nice thin head tube, which is, not 100% accurate to this actual species, but to the family group, I guess it is pretty accurate. But the head sculpt here is really nice. You can see the nostrils are nicely sculpted. The entire head is covered in nice sculpted scale work, which looks really nice and very sharp and crisp. So it's like very nice and clean. You can see all the scales sculpted very nicely. A whole lot of shrink wrapping around the skull right here, which isn't really accurate, but this is a Jurassic Park toy, so it's not supposed to be 100% accurate anyway. Here inside the mouth is not really sculpted. It's fairly smooth. I mean, it's not opened all the way, so I guess there isn't no need to have a whole lot of detail. But it is unfortunate that the inside of the mouth isn't painted, which I really would have liked to see it actually painted, but they didn't. But half the time it is dark in there, depending on the shadows, so I guess it kind of gets away with it. There is a bit of a tongue sculpted on the inside. It's much easier to see in person, but there is a tongue sculpted in there. And then you can kind of get to see the rows of teeth in the front right here, which again aren't painted, which I really wish they were, so that people can know that those are teeth, and then these are the lips of the mouth and all that. And they are somewhat sculpted, not really, not 100%, you know, sculpted. You can't really tell their teeth, but in some areas, I guess they do look like teeth, but it is what it is. And then here at the neck right here, I do like these little osteoderm little scoots along the neck right here, especially here along this part of the neck, how they're just kind of lined up, these small little scoots, which is really cool. Kind of reminds me of like certain paleo art on Apatosaurus, having like those weird bony protrusions coming out of the neck, which is really cool. I really do like that. And you got some nice larger scales all across the neck right there, and some nice little wrinkles around the neck too, so it kind of makes it look, it's like it's stiff, you know, and full of muscles and not so bendy like older representations. But yeah, I really do like the sculpt work. Got some nice smaller scales on the underside right here, which is really nice. And same with the underneath of the skull right there. And you got some nice scales, excuse me, on the top of the head right here. And then moving on to this part of the body, we'll go to the, we're gonna go to the front limbs right here, which are nicely sculpted, nice muscle definition, folds and wrinkles, and some larger scales popping up here and there, which is really cool, like a classic sauropod legs and limbs right here. Nice line sculpt work. Here at the hands right here, you got some nice 4 toes right here, which is not accurate to the real animal, but you know, this is like your classic representation of sauropods in all media for the most part. But it looks really good though. I like the entire sculpt work, especially on the underside and the entire body. You can see a little bit of like the elbow sculpt work right there, which is looking really nice. Same with this arm as well. It's a shame that none of the toenails or the nails at all are painted, but you know, it is what it is. This is Mattel, so they don't always paint everything, but I'm not going to complain too much about it because it doesn't really bother me too much unless it's like super obvious. But then here at the underside, you got some nice scale work going throughout the entire underside right here. Really nice. It's a bit more smoother over here, and you got some more wrinkles in the chest area. And then here at the pretty much the side and upper half of the body, you got nice rows of those scoots and just some spiky protrusions all over the back right here. Kind of reminds me of an Abelisaur, like Carnotaurus. You got some larger spikes right here where the button is, and then just all the smaller scoots that run down the rest of the body, with some nice sculpted scales throughout the entire body. So this thing is decked out in sculpt work, which is really nice. Nice thickness for the body too. I'm pretty sure it is pretty accurate to the actual animal in real life. You can see some nice sculpt work on the button as well, so really nice there. Nice muscle definition, you know, peeking out through the skin. You got a little bit of like the ribs you can kind of make out here on the side, and some more folds and wrinkles in the skin, which you can see that kind of continues around the leg and here on the side. Then here at the hind legs, really detailed. Here at the feet, you know, nice 4 toes again, and nice sculpt work on the underside as well. Nice muscle definition, obviously, and this thing is just sculpted really nicely. It's like always the limbs that are always more decked out in sculpted detail than the body, though it is made out of 2 different material. This one's like a more hollow plastic, and this one's more of a thick piece of plastic that's attached to the body. You got some nice larger bumps right here on around the upper side of the hips. Some large flat scales all throughout the body. You got some really large, like pebble like rocks or scales, whatever, on the calf area back here, which is really cool. I really do like the detail right there, and some more line work throughout. Same with the inside of the leg, you got some more sculpted detail. Same with right here. And then throughout the rest of the underside of the body, just some more of the finer sculpt work of the scales. So it's a lot more smoother here, and then it becomes more more sharp and more noticeable throughout the rest of the tail. Some more sculpted lines or stretch marks here at the back side. And then the rest of the tail has all these spiky osteoderms or scoots along the back, which is really nice. I really do like that, which kind of could probably do some damage if this Nigersaurus were to whack opponents with its whip-like tail, because it really did have a whip-like tail, so I guess that's why it's kind of in that bendy fashion, which is really cool. I really do like the detail on it. Nice little scoots sticking out. Really cool. I really do like the sculpt work on this one. Very unique. And here on the other side, it's just the same stuff that we saw before, but you know, overall, really nice sculpt work. Paint job. I really do like the paint job. This one is placed in the jungle environment, so you got some nice greens in there. I really do like all the colors they chose. I like the lighter, somewhat olive green for like majority of the body, and then it kind of transitions into this darker like forest green, which looks really nice, and they contrast together very well. I mean, I like how the green, dark green here bleeds into the neck, and the lighter greens bleed into the body, so really like the design of the colors right here. And you got a nice yellow for the eye with a black pupil, makes it stand out. And you got a little bit of like a lighter yellowish cream color throughout the underside of the neck and a little bit on the chest, so that's really cool. Adds some more color to it. I really wish it would have continued throughout the complete underside of the body, obviously, but overall, yeah, the colors are really nice on this Nigersaurus. I don't know why, but Nigersaurus is always depicted with a green color, which who knows, maybe it was in real life. I guess we won't really know for sure, but I think the green really does work well for a Nigersaurus in my opinion. So yeah, colors are a plus in my book. Articulation, there isn't a whole lot because a lot of it is due to the action feature, but here in the front limbs they can move complete 360, and because of the joint right here it can pivot in and out, so nice motion there. And then here at the hind legs they can go 360 and they can pivot in and out. I always like the dinosaurs that have all their limbs articulated, instead of having it be part of an action feature. I don't know, I just liked it better like that. And then the tail can obviously rotate because it did come detached when you get it in the box, but obviously we don't need to do that because there's no reason to, because it breaks the sculpt. And then, oh yeah, here is the scan code right there for anyone who needs it. And yeah, that's basically it for articulation. Not a whole lot. Everything else is tied into the action feature, which much like all the other Wild Roar figures, you just take this little button, move it from side to side, makes the head, or the neck anyways, move in different directions, and it makes some noises. So yeah, we'll go ahead and test that out. Alright, so as you can see, when you move this little button, the head moves in left and right and also goes up and down, so really nice little motion there. But let's go ahead and take a look at all the sounds. Alright, that might have been all the sounds, but I really do like them. There was no carnivore sounds in there. They're all herbivore sounds, at least that's what it sounds like. I heard a lot of like reused sounds from like Stegosaurus or maybe Apatosaurus and Parasaurolophus, like those type of herbivore sounds. I think they all work perfect for this little Nigersaurus. Obviously this guy never appeared in any of the movies, so to reuse a bunch of movie herbivore sounds and put them into this non-movie dinosaur works out pretty well in my opinion. But yeah, I think the sounds are pretty nice and I like the action feature. So alright, here we have the Mattel Nigersaurus compared with another Nigersaurus figure right here. This is the Collect A Nigersaurus. So this one's supposed to represent the more scientifically accurate version, and this is the Jurassic Park or the Mattel version. Again, this Nigersaurus figure is in a green colorization, so I don't know what it is with Nigersaurus and the color green, but I think it works perfect in my opinion. And for the most part, I think Mattel did a very nice job representing this real animal, especially when you compare it to this one. They gave it that horizontal-like look, like all the Diplodocus-like dinosaurs have. They gave it somewhat of a longer tail, or a whip-like tail. They made it kind of wavy. I guess that's supposed to signify a whip-like function, but obviously it needs to be a bit longer. But for the most part, I think they got the whole anatomy down. Especially when you look at this one, especially in the limbs. I mean, they got all the nails and all that, which I think is not even accurate for this figure. I think it's supposed to have only the one spike in the front. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, there's that. So this one is an older figure, so it might not be totally 100% in terms of updated science and all that, but for the most part, like I said, the anatomy is pretty well done. And this collective figure does have a longer whip-like tail, and you can see all the chipped paint on mine. This one's a very old figure. This one has been with me for a really long time. I'm really hoping to get the Safari LTD Nigersaurus, though apparently that one is retired, so I'm hoping I'll get to get it at some point, because that one actually has a really nice anatomy, or just overall proportions to the real animal, considering that one's also a slightly older figure as well, but though it is slightly newer than this one. But I'm hoping I can get that figure someday, whether I find it at a museum or a garage sale or something. But anyways, back to the review. The main part I want to point out is that this collected Nigersaurus right here represents the unique head of this dinosaur much better than Mattel's representation. So here you can see the head, a very weird sauropod indeed. Just look at that head. That is really creepy. That's really odd looking, but obviously the weird shaped mouth is to help it eat certain like aquatic plants, I believe, or just certain plants that it can eat on the ground rather than reaching up high, which is why Diplodocus dinosaurs are always horizontal, because they eat more low vegetation than high vegetation like Brachiosaurus. But yeah, this face right here, you can see it's very duckbill-like. It has like a huge, wide, almost like a chip bag clip type of mouth. You can see the teeth right here on the front are very tiny and flat. And Mattel didn't really do a good job in representing that. They just kind of made it look like a mini Diplodocus. But the head sculpt kind of reminds me of a Nigersaurus a little bit, especially when you look at this. They do have a somewhat similar head sculpt a little bit, except it's missing the wide mouth, which is kind of unfortunate, because I really do like Nigersaurus. It is a very unique animal. But, you know, it is what it is. But overall, they're both really cool looking together. And next up, we have the Nigersaurus compared with the two other smaller sauropods that Mattel has done. So I'm not going to do the Brachiosaurus or the Drenatus, because we already know those things are just huge compared to this little guy. But here we have the slightly smaller ones. So these ones are actually in the larger, more like the upper larger assortment compared to these. So these ones are like your size is like the Stegosaurus and all that, whereas this guy is in your, you know, Parasaurolophus and your Dryptosaurus size range. So it is a smaller figure. So that's really cool. We've gotten like the medium size. We got a medium sized sauropod, a slightly larger sauropod, and obviously the huge extra large sauropods. We're still missing a danger pack or an attack pack size for a sauropod, which I'm hoping we can get that soon. But you know, we'll have to wait and see. But compared this medium Nigersaurus with the Ankylosaurus and the Margosaurus, they look really well together, and you can see just the huge size difference, especially compared to a human right here. I like the whole size diversity right here with all these Mattel figures. I love how they're giving us to scale figures. I really do like that a lot. Okay, and for our last part of our size comparisons, here we have the Nigersaurus compared with other dinosaur species that Mattel has made. But not only that, these ones are all species that lived in the same location and time as Nigersaurus. Nigersaurus lived, or at least was discovered in Niger, Africa, during, I believe, the early Cretaceous period. I might be wrong, but I think that's what it is. These are all the species that were discovered and found in the exact same place, and turned out to live at the same time period. So Nigersaurus would have maybe not necessarily encountered all the time, but at least lived alongside all of these species. And it's really cool how Mattel has actually made these as well. I know it wasn't their intention, but it's cool when Mattel gives us all these different species and you find out that certain species actually live together, so you get to group a lot of these together based on certain time periods and locations and all that. So I think that's really cool. So here we got the Suchomimus, the Ouranosaurus, Eocarcharia, and the Sarcosuchus. So really cool here. We got ourselves 2 herbivores, 2 carnivores, and then, well, technically 3, but you got 1 water animal. So this one's like in the water. Everything else here is all terrestrial for the most part. But really cool how we get all these different animals together that actually lived at the exact same time and place. Also compared to the humans, so you kind of get a rough estimate of how big these animals were in real life, which is really cool. And actually, the Ouranosaurus was huge when I compared to this human. So wow, that's pretty big, and the Sarcosuchus as well. So really cool there. I like seeing all these together. And I like having all these little comparisons, so I'm hoping the more figures that Mattel comes out with, the more little groupings I can do like this in my reviews. So yeah, they all look great together. Alrighty everyone, so that's about to wrap it up for this review. For my final thoughts, I really do like this figure. It's probably one of the ones I was looking forward to out of Wave 2 the most, in my opinion. Nigersaurus is such a weird dinosaur in the first place, so I think it was really cool that Mattel got to make one. The sculpt work, I really do like the sculpt work. The scales and the cool, unique osteoderms and scutes all over the body is a nice plus, in my opinion. These colors are awesome. You know, a green Nigersaurus, you can't go wrong with that. The action features are nice as well. Your normal, typical dinosaur toy action features. But overall, it's a pretty solid figure. It is unfortunate that Mattel messed up on the wide mouth part. They could have given us the cool, unique mouth that the real Nigersaurus had, but you know, it is what it is. Either way, this is still a Nigersaurus toy, so you can't really complain about that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again for the next video.